This documentary depicts our journey to raise awareness about bringing a women's center to the Richard Stockton campus. Stockton is one of the few higher education institutes that does not have one. First, we spoke with Erin O'Hanlon, activist in the residence office of Serviceline.
But in my full-time career, I am a feminist activist in the community. I work for a local rape crisis and domestic violence response center called the Women's Center in Atlantic County. And we have been in existence for almost 40 years, working to support survivors of domestic violence, sexual violence, human trafficking, stalking, and through an opportunity through the Project 2020 initiative, we have an activist in residence here on campus. I'm the first one. And we have an opportunity to come on campus and to build momentum around developing a women's gender and sexuality center here on campus.
How can we as students bring more awareness about the Women's Center?
Well, I think a lot of students aren't sure about the Women's Center. You know, sometimes students, when I talk about it or present about it, will say, well, why isn't there a men's center? What we're really trying to do is to carve out a safe space. Not for just women, but creating a safe space for people to start to begin to have that conversation around women and how women need support in a different way on campus, how men can be tied to women's liberation. I know many men who self-identify them as feminists and who are supportive of the women in their lives. Also, too, people who are trans, who we have here on campus, people who are gay, people who are lesbian, people who are bisexual. So being able to have that kind of a support system. And again, it's about carving out a safe space within a very large community that has a lot of ideas around dominant gender, dominant sexuality, dominant masculinity, and that this would be a safe space for there to be a different kind of set of ideas for that. I think the other thing that's important to say is we are already doing a lot of the different types of services on campus through connections of other offices, either through here, the Office of Service Learning, through the Wellness Center. We have a team of advocates who are specially trained to respond to sexual violence, human trafficking, domestic violence, rape crisis, and that would be pulled together under the umbrella of the Women's Center, as well as just basic supports. You know, I mean, one of the things we need on campus is places for people to be able to have their children, in the sense of, you know, to be able to nurse, to be able to store breast milk, to be able to come and just kind of sit down for a minute. Yeah, so I mean, it's that kind of an umbrella as well.
The following are different accounts we have collected from Stockton staff.
My name is Emily Van Dyne. I'm an adjunct professor in general studies and arts and humanities. I teach at the moment introduction to research and also perspectives on women. I've taught here since 2010. I typically teach first year writing courses. So I graduated from Emerson College in 2002, and it's interesting because I always think of it as this extraordinarily queer-friendly and women-friendly place, and then I was a women and gender studies minor there. But looking back, no, there was no centralized area. Outside of the classroom, I wouldn't say it had any real active place on campus. So it was an active part of my education, but I also had to kind of seek that out. I didn't go there with that intent. I met a woman that ended up becoming my advisor, Dr. Maria Kundura, and her area of expertise was in post-colonial literature, and so gender studies was an enormous part of that. But I was exposed to her sort of by accident, and I became fascinated with it, and that was what I wanted to study, and so I did. I think the best approach as a student is to bear in mind, like we talked about in class, you know, the power that you have invested in you as a valued member of the community. I mean, you are paying, or someone is paying, right, whether it's government or your parents or whoever, quite a chunk of money for you to be able to be here, right? So in order for you to get the most out of your education, you have to remember that the education doesn't just happen from 8:30 to 10:20, right? It continues in the way you conduct yourself outside of the classroom. Be a vocal presence, but be an informed vocal presence. You know, I mean, that's part of what we were talking about in class with the slut walk. I'm like, well, okay, that's a great like buzzword, right? But why? But you have to be very clear about what you're trying to do. What is your mission, and how is that going to further your cause of creating this centralized place where people can meet and discuss issues of gender equality, sexual equality, marriage, civil rights, reactions to androcentrism in the academy. Unless you're working toward that sort of practical application, then I would say you're just out there yelling with your sign.
Part of our mission was to meet with members of the task force and discuss the Women's Center.
My name is Kristin Jacobson. I am the current coordinator of the literature program and associate professor at Stockton College. I've also been a past coordinator of the Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies program. I received my PhD from Penn State in American Literature, my master's degree from the University of Colorado Boulder, and as an undergrad I went to a small liberal arts college, even smaller than Stockton, in Wisconsin called Carthage College. My position is, currently I'm the co-chair for the faculty task force that's charged with completing a proposal that was began when I was still coordinator of the WIGS program, Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. And that proposal was started, about a year ago. With an ad hoc committee that was comprised of faculty members, staff at the college, as well as students, and then it transferred into the faculty task force. Well, when I was serving as coordinator of WIGS, I felt like I was getting requests for information, requests for support from students as well as from faculty who were trying to assist students that were services that really Women's Center and other campuses would serve. And so that was a kind of initial part of the initial inspiration.
So how do you feel this would impact the lives of students here at Stockton?
Well, based on the kind of advising that I've done for students, and the kinds of issues that they come to me or their faculty advocates and staff advocates when I was serving particularly as WIGS coordinator, I think it would provide a very much needed support system that students often aren't necessarily finding the kinds of resources that they need to be successful in school. And I think that the Women, Gender, and Sexuality Center would offer a much needed clearinghouse for that information. There was also a group of students that really wanted to have some type of center, and those students were especially concerned with and focused on the LGBTQ community, and this was post what happened at Rutgers, and so I think there was a lot of awareness about how colleges could better support all of its communities. And there's a selfish aspect as a faculty member who sometimes I felt I've been ill-equipped to find information about where best to send a student for resources. This would be a known place on campus and an easy place to find. And I think anytime that we're dealing with difficult issues like sexual violence, with harassment, with bullying, that the easier it is to find those resources, the better.
As members of the Stockton community, we all deserve information and access to a safe haven.
My name is Daniel Tomei, and I am the Assistant Director for the Office of Service Learning. My main priorities is to oversee our service learning experience within classes, our students, our faculty, and community partners. And so I do a lot of relationship building. That's my main job objectives, is really making sure that we're recognizing the importance of social justice education through service, be it in projects in classes, alternative spring break projects, large days of service like our MLK Day of Service or our Fall Day of Service, or currently right now we're going through Read Across America, and so literacy advocacy. But when it comes to service and social change, my name is usually mentioned here at college at the Stockton.
What progress has been made in Stockton getting a women's center?
The objective of getting a women's center here on the college campus has been, I would say, moving in a forward motion, and this project that's going on right now in this class is one that's been going on for at least the last 3-4 semesters. And so in 2 years there's been a large conversation, and I think it's creating more and more momentum. So positively, we're moving in a direction that I think is moving us towards the potential opportunities to have a women's center. I think it's on students' minds. I think it's in the faculty members to recognize it now that we have a task force that comes out of the Faculty Senate to really start making recommendations to go to the upper administration. It's something that I really find still a bit odd working at other institutions that we don't have a women's center here at this campus.
What is the current objective of the task force for getting a women's center?
Sure. So the faculty task force's purpose is really to objectively look across campus and gather information, collect data, as well as come together with administrators, staff, and faculty to find out, are we addressing the needs? And if we are, how are we doing that? As well as recognizing what is it that we need to do to find a space. That's 1. 2, writing up job description as for a coordinator or a director. 3, trying to ensure that services for our students are being met. I think that's a large part of what is still being worked on in the overall committee.
Of other campuses that you have been a part of, did you see a women's center on any of them?
So Stockton isn't my first place where I've worked in higher education. My background's predominantly all in higher education. My career started at Rutgers, and Rutgers has a large population where resources like a women's center or an LGBT resource place is found easily. At University of Massachusetts Amherst, UMass, there was a women's center and an LGBT center, as well as a men's resource center. And so there were different perspectives and services being provided. I've worked also at one of the 7 sister schools at Smith College, and so being a predominantly liberal arts college that's founded on women in itself and focusing on college education and support, a women's center was something that was very prominent in that space, as well as having a gender and LGBT resource center. And so there were multiple places where I've worked where that conversation has been had. Now, I've also worked at CUNY in New York City, and I worked predominantly at the Harlem campus at the City College of New York. And at the City College of New York, the resources were really more university-wide. So CUNY, the university, in all 5 boroughs, definitely had a women's center and resources, being that we had the advantage of being in New York City. But did each individual campus have one? No. But that's because we could rely on each other as a larger campus throughout the city. So I've seen a little bit of both. I've seen campuses with many resources, and I've also seen campuses with little to no resources. And sad to say that I feel like Stockton is still really a little bit behind and needing to work on really making sure that we have a space for our students. You know, we're still one of the only campuses throughout the state of New Jersey that doesn't have a women's center. And so that's something that I hope that we're working towards with this task force and with many other projects that are going on.
So then, in what ways would a women's center benefit the students of Stockton and the campus overall?
Right. I think it's identifying a space. I think space in itself is needed for there to be a safe space, a place to have conversations, a place to go for counseling and resources, in specifically when it comes to sexual assault, when it comes to fear of being on campus in the evenings or during certain hours, a place for advocacy to occur. So where conversations can be addressed when it comes to the larger concept of addressing women, gender issues as a whole on our campus. I think we're lacking somewhat of an educational service, and I think that's what needs to be emphasized. Educationally, in our curriculum, in our classes, having the WIGS program, the minor, definitely having faculty members who are very familiar with it is extremely beneficial. I think we still lack, and we need to identify the resources on our service side of the house, and we want to make sure that we have that. And it's not to say that the wellness center and health services isn't doing that. They are, but they're also limited, and so we need to address that. With our ever expanding population here on campus, we need to be able to address all of our resources and make sure that everyone has an opportunity to really get serviced. We don't want to do a disservice to our Stockton students.
And how do you think that students on campus could contribute to getting a women's center, and how they could lend any help?
I personally believe that it's actually the students who have to be the most vocal about this. Students doing these types of service learning projects are what will make change possible here on campus. Students' voices are the ones that are heard across the nation in regards to really addressing the services. Without the students, we wouldn't be where we are. And so I think students actively having this conversation with their faculty members, with staff, with themselves on campus, it's extremely important to really recognize, are we addressing the main issues of concern? Are we really servicing our students here on campus? What could make the Stockton experience a holistic, better one? And that's something that needs to always be taken into consideration. The students of Stockton today may be completely different of the Stockton students for tomorrow. But so, taking into consideration what are we lacking today, we need to really recognize, how are we going to continue to grow if we're not being able to service everyone? And so I think it's really from the students that need to take into consideration. They're the ones that have the ability to make change possible. I think students here at Stockton need to remember our roots come from an activist point of view. Being a small school founded in the late 60s that really was built up on creating a liberal arts space, and civic engagement is what comes out of a liberal arts education. Students can actively be pursuing that through petitions, through tabling, through outreach, through running workshops, through connecting with our community partners and bringing them here on campus to have conversations. And I think it's all about relationship building. So if you can have a relationship, if you can build trust with people, then our goals can be met. And I think the work that's being done through this project is an example of what that means. And we're gonna go with this, and we're gonna utilize how is this part of the larger conversation, because you're just one group, right, in 2 classes that are doing this, but then we have 4 or 5 other classes that are addressing the Women's Center from different perspectives. So we have one class specifically just focusing on research and analysis and working with the Atlantic County Women's Center and the needs and resources that are needed here. So the visuals are well needed, the conversations are well needed, and I think all these pieces are going to come together. That's what the Office of Service Learning essentially is, kind of like, we're the connector, the dotters. We're the problem solvers, and we're going to try to address it. So.
We also thought it was important to get the opinions of the student body.
My name's Rebecca Garner.
How do you feel about trying to bring the women's center here on campus?
I think it's really important for us to have a women's center on campus. and what it stands for, the Women's Gender and Sexuality Center, is really important because there isn't really anything like that for Stockton students.
So do you think it would be really beneficial to have one?
I do. I feel like it would create a safe space for students, and it would provide information that I just think would be really beneficial to everybody.
What's your major?
I'm a social work major with a minor in women, gender, and sexuality studies. You're welcome.
My name is Christina Cowick.
And do you think that we should have a women's center here on campus?
Yes, absolutely.
How do you think it would be beneficial to having a student center here on campus?
It would provide a lot of necessary resources for women, not just women, but LGBTQ people, because they're going to incorporate somewhat of that into the center as well. And I think that that would be really important to create some sort of haven for people who can't find that information or those resources or that safety anywhere else.
And what are you studying?
Literature, and I'm minoring in women, gender, and sexuality studies.
Hello, my name is Aisha Lee. I'm a business major here at Stockton College, and this is my senior year.
Do you believe that we should have a women's center here on campus?
Definitely. I think as a liberal arts college, we should be having programs and centers to benefit all demographics of the college, including women. So I think that would be a good thing for us. And like I said, we're a liberal arts college, so having a women's center would help those who are studying women's studies, as we have a major here. I think would be very beneficial.
And from that beneficial factor,
Yeah.
how much do you think it would improve your college experience here?
Well, I'm on my way out, so I wouldn't necessarily help me, but for those coming behind me who are studying women's history, women's lib, that kind of a thing, I think would be very beneficial. I have a couple of friends that I know that are studying women's health and that kind of a thing, so I think that a women's center just geared towards women's studies will be very beneficial. We've got the United Arts and Sciences Center, so I think a women's center would be right along the same lines. And with the college also pursuing university status, I think that a women's center would definitely help us achieve that goal.
My name is Jason Bruce. I'm a student here at Stockton. I'm also a veteran. I do feel that a women's center is important here. I think a lot of young men need to learn about women and the different things that affect women that can also affect their lives when they get older and they get married and they get in relationships, and to help understand what it's like to be a woman. It's the old saying, you don't know until you walk into someone's shoes, but you can't walk in a woman's shoes. So you have to learn things to be able to understand a woman. So that's very important, and it should come here to this school. I think it's very important. Women need a safe place to go to. Domestic violence is on the rise, and there's rape cases and stuff like that. And a woman needs to feel safe so she can report these things so they can be taken care of properly. There's no reason for a woman to ever be scared of anything, and we should be there to help them every step of the way. And that's how I feel. I'm a student of math with a background in education.
We hope that this was not only informative, but that it also shows that if you want to see change on campus, you need to be a part of that change. Everyone counts. Anyone can make a difference.
Alright, say who you are.
My name's Jen. I'm a senior at Mainland.
Do you know what a women's center is?
Yeah.
Alright, and as someone who is going to be going to college in the fall, what does it mean to you that your campus does or does not have a center?
Before I applied to college, that was one of the things I looked at and was important because I think we have an issue.
You are?
I'm Kathy. I'm a senior at Mainland.
Okay, do you know what a women's center is?
Not really.
A women's center is a place on campus where female students can go for birth control, counseling, rape kits, even mothers where they can go to breastfeed. It's also a good place for the queer community. It's basically a place where students can feel safe.
having had an experience where something traumatic happened to me and it was of age where I didn't want to talk to the guy about it, I know that it's really important to have a space where almost level headed to go and they can talk about whatever it is, you know, whatever it is they want to talk about.